Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayat Mudite Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhagavati Ishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamal Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrate. Welcome, devotees. So today we are talking about Canto 2, Chapter 5, the Cosmic Manifestation. Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 5 is the Cause of All Causes. And we're going to be reading text 15. Let's start it. Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayanam Gaja Narayana Paraloka Narayana Paramaka. So once again, Narayana Paraveda Deva Narayanam Gaja Narayana Paraloka Narayana Paramaka. Word for word. Narayana, the Supreme Lord, Para is the cause and is meant for. Veda, knowledge. Deva, the demigods. Narayana, the Supreme Lord. Angaja, assisting hands. Narayana, the personality of Godhead. Para, for the sake of. Loka, the planets. Narayana, the Supreme Lord. Para, just to please him. Maka, all sacrifices. Translation. The Vedic literatures are made by and are meant for the Supreme Lord. The demigods are also meant for serving the Lord as parts of his body. The different planets are also meant for the sake of the Lord, and different sacrifices are performed just to please him. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. According to the Vedanta Sutras, Shastra Unitvat, the Supreme Lord is the author of all revealed scriptures, and all revealed scriptures are for knowing the Supreme Lord. Veda means knowledge that leads to the Lord. The Vedas are made just to revive the forgotten consciousness of the conditioned souls, and any literature not meant for reviving God consciousness is rejected at once by the Narayana Para devotees. Such deluding books of knowledge, not having Narayana as their aim, are not at all knowledge, but are playgrounds for crows who are interested in the rejected refuse of the world. Strong. Any book of knowledge, science or art must lead to the knowledge of Narayan. Otherwise, it must be rejected. That is the way of advancement of knowledge. The supreme worshipable deity is Narayan. The demigods are recommended secondarily for worship in relation to Narayana because the demigods are assisting hands in the management of the universal affairs. As the officers of a kingdom are respected due to their relationship to the king, the demigods are worshipped due to their relationship to the Lord. Without the Lord's relation, worship of the demigods is unauthorized, avidipurvakam. Just as it is improper to water the leaves and branches of a tree without watering its root. Therefore, the demigods are also dependent on Narayan. The lokas or different planets are attractive because they have different varieties of life and bliss, partially representing the Satchidananda Graha. Everyone wants the eternal life of bliss and knowledge. In the material world, such an eternal life of bliss and knowledge is progressively realized in the upper planets. But after reaching there, one is inclined to achieve further progress along the path back to Godhead. Duration of life with a proportionate quantity of bliss and knowledge may be increased from one planet to another. One can increase the duration of life to thousands and hundreds of thousands of years in different planets, but nowhere is there eternal life. But one who can reach the highest planet, that of Brahma, can aspire to reach the planet of the spiritual sky, where life is eternal. Therefore, the progressive journey from one planet to another culminates in reaching the supreme planet of the Lord, Madhama, where life is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. All different kinds of sacrifice are performed just to satisfy Lord Narayana to reach him. And the best sacrifice recommended in this age of Kali is Sankirtan, the mainstay of the devotional service of a Narayana devotee. Okay. So invoke the prayers of our Parampara before we get started. Jnanatimirantasya jnananjanashalakya Jnanatimirantasya jnananjanashalakya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadavai Savadutam Parijana Sahit Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Tamsya Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Desha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Stuti Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Pranamami Panchakalpa Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavyo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakti Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. Welcome, dear devotees, to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. I have been given another opportunity to present the Bhagavatam and glorify Narayana. I'm completely unqualified, but I'm taking this opportunity to glorify the Bhagavatam Narayana to my meager capacity as a service for my purification. I ardently seek the blessings of Guru Maharaj and all the devotees that have assembled here, so that I may speak something of Samdha. So this verse is actually packed with content, and one can elaborate on each line for hours. So with again, my meager capacity, I've tried to pick some points from each of the lines of this verse. Hopefully that's going to be somewhat helpful. So we've been hearing that Narad Muni has very submissively and sincerely asked some questions to Brahma, the first couple of texts of this chapter. And those questions, there are 6 questions. They are: describe the symptoms of this manifest world. What is the background or shelter? What is adhishtanam? Was the word used. How is it created? How is it conserved? What does it depend on? Yat param. And under whose control is all this being done? These are the 6 questions that Narad asked. Why is he asking these questions? Because Narad says that to Brahma that you know everything about this creation. You are independent, self-sufficient. You create by your energy. Yet you perform so many austerities. The words used are ghoram tapa. And so Narad is, the way he's coming across this, he's confused about that. So in response, Brahma in the last few verses, and beautiful verses, has clarified that I'm subordinate to the Supreme Lord. I only recreate what has already been created. And he also says that people that are bewildered by Maya think that I am supreme. Now, Brahma has started to answer the specific questions. And in fact, yesterday, Amritakeli Mataji presented the 14th verse where Brahma responded to the question about what are the characteristics, Yat Rupam. In today's verse 15 and 16 is actually a pair of verses where Brahma responds partially to two of Narada's questions, and they are Yat Adhishtanam, which is what is the background or shelter of this universe, and two is Yat Param, what does this universe, what does this creation depend on? So Brahma responds with this beautiful, melodious, actually heart-touching verse, Narayana Paraveda, Deva Narayananga, Narayana Paraloka, Narayana Paramakaha. So this verse is actually very similar to a verse in Canto 1, Chapter 2, where Sutta Goswami is responding to the questions of the sages. So let's take a look at that. It's Canto 1, Chapter 2, text 28 and 20, where Sutta Goswami says, Vasudeva Paraveda, Vasudeva Paramaka, Vasudeva Para Yoga, Vasudeva Para Kriya, Vasudeva Param Jnanam, Vasudeva Param Tapa, Vasudeva Paro Karmo, Vasudeva Paragati. The translation is that in the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. And Prabhupada starts that purport by saying that Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship. And this is confirmed in these two verses. So here in this verse, Brahma, along with similar lines, is saying that the Vedic literatures are made by and are meant for the Supreme Lord. The demigods are meant for serving the Lord, parts of his body. The different planets are also meant for the service of the Lord. And different sacrifices are performed just to please him. And this continues in tomorrow's verse, which is verse 16. So in the purport of today's verse, of course, Prabhupada is saying that the Supreme Lord is the author of all revealed scriptures. That's how he starts. And all revealed scriptures are meant for knowing the Supreme Lord. So we learn from many scriptures, starting from Ishopanishad and others, that Vedas are apaurashya, that the Lord himself breathes out the Vedic scriptures, which means that they are not really written by any man or demigod or anybody within this material world. And actually they existed ever since creation. But there are skeptics that may say, and actually a lot of people say, that that's all nonsense. There is nothing like apaurashya. And they say that some very smart or wise people have written these books to ensure law and order, so that people follow some organized rules, and so they can live peacefully in this world and happy. But the thing is that even if one lives peacefully in this world, right? By doing what? I mean, what would they be doing? Mainly eating, sleeping, defending. I mean, what greatness, what really can a person achieve by doing that? So the fact is that the Vedas not only give knowledge about this earth and how to live in this earth peacefully, but also about other planetary systems, right? So Swarga, as well as the spiritual world. And it's known that if a person studies the Vedas with faith, then subtler realms of truth are actually revealed to that person. And that knowledge gives spiritual joy as one kind of starts to realize that higher power, Krishna. And that's called Brahma Saukyam. And so by doing that, slowly one can realize that it is impossible that this knowledge can come from any living being in this mundane world. People with the 4 defects, illusion, cheating propensity, imperfect senses, and prone to making mistakes. So it can be safely said that the revealed scriptures are actually prepared by the Lord through his incarnation, is what we learned in the body of Srila Vyasdev. Now, the other very important aspect is that the goal of the Vedic literature is the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says in the purport that the Vedas are made just to revive the forgotten consciousness of the conditioned souls. And any literature not meant for reviving God consciousness is rejected at once by the Narayana devotees. Such deluding books of knowledge, not having Narayana as their aim, are not at all knowledge, but are the playgrounds for crows who are interested in the rejected refuse of the world. This is very strong and quite shocking. So Prabhupada is basically saying that that all of the books that we've been studying, the literature that we've been studying, or engineering, medical, physics, etc., that we've spent many years studying, are they for crows who are just interested in rejected refuse of the world? So we actually see that this is not just Prabhupada, it is actually elaborated in the Bhagavatam. I mean, it's actually spoken in the Bhagavatam, a verse which talks about Vayasam Tirtham, the pilgrimage of the crows. So you can look at that in verse Canto 1, chapter 5, text 10. So it talks about Vayasam Tirtham, which is the crows, pilgrimage of the crows. So the translation of this verse goes as, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage of crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. And in the purport, just the first verse of the purport explains the whole thing about the crows and swans. Swans being the opposite of what the crows are looking for. So yes, crows and swans are not birds of the same feather. Because of their different mental attitudes, the fruitive workers or passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas the all-perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruitive workers take pleasure in wine, women, and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the place where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water, nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers and variegated colors of natural beauty. That is the difference between the two classes of birds. So the thing is, in many conversations, that kind of clarifies it, what it is about the crows. And in many of the Prabhupada conversations, he has mentioned that the Western world, is like the place of crows, right, where the focus is on sense enjoyment. But funnily enough, he's also said that when Indians that belonged originally to the world of swans, the world of Vedas, yoga, etc., when they come to the world, suddenly in the presence of so much freely available avenues of pleasure and enjoyment, turn into new crows. New crows is the term Prabhupada uses. And unfortunately, they go totally out of control. And many that were originally vegetarian back home start eating all kinds of abominable food and various other things. And Prabhupada, in some of his lectures, says that they are very hard to bring back. swans to the Vedic culture, to that clean, simple nature. So fortunately for us, somehow by the mercy of devotees, Guru, Krishna, Prabhupada, we have found our ways back into the Bhagavatam, the essence of the book, and to those activities which lead to Narayana, back to God. So we really have to be very, very grateful, very fortunate for that. So coming back to the Vedas, Krishna himself in 15.15 Bhagavad Gita has said, Vedescha sarve rahameva vetyo, Vedanta krita ved chaham. So we've heard from three sources that Sutta Goswami mentioned this in Canto 1. Brahma says in this verse, Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita that by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta. I am the knower of the Vedas. So with three authorities, there's no doubt, right? Narayana Para. The next line is Deva Narayanangaja, which means that the supreme worshipable deity is Narayana. And demigods are respected only because of their relationship to Krishna. So it's like in a government official or an elected minister is respected because of the position that he has, right, in the government. And in India, like we used to say in the political, his kursi, that his seat is what is giving him the respect position. If he did not have that, he would be like an ordinary. Of course, in yesterday's verse, we heard that everything, the most little insect, everything is connected to Krishna as his energies. But demigods in particular are actually a part of the Lord's body, and they serve him by officiating the various departments to run the universal affairs, like we heard in the purport. So they obviously have a lot of power, and sometimes demigods are worshipped for material gain because they have that power, and they actually readily keep a lot of these traditions. But the thing is, whatever rewards are given by demigods are actually sanctioned by the Supreme Lord only, because only he has the ability to reward. And in Bhagavad Gita 9.23, Krishna himself says that those that worship the demigods are doing it, and the exact translation is, those who are devotees of other gods and worship them actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do it in the wrong way. They do it avidipurvakam. And why is that? Because they are watering the leaves and branches instead of watering the root of the tree. If a tree's root is not watered, then the rest of it cannot be nourished. So, people doing that is doing it avidipurvakam. Krishna also in another verse calls such people as people of less intelligence, or alpamedha. So, however, very interestingly, there are times in the Bhagavatam when devotees of Krishna have actually asked for benedictions from demigods. We have just 5 minutes, but can anybody remember some one or two such instances where the Lord's devotees have worshipped demigods? I think I'll just keep going. We don't have much time. We are actually in my reading group, Bhagavatam reading group. We are reading Canto 5 right now, which is Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes. And we are at a point where Dhruva Maharaj's brother was killed by a yaksha. And Dhruva Maharaj is completely enraged. He takes to take revenge. He goes into a battle with the yakshas and he starts killing them indiscriminately. The description is really scary. He's using various weapons and the fire and all sorts of abominable things getting thrown at each other and whatnot. So a lot of yakshas get killed. And then Swayambhuva Manu, who's Dhruva Maharaj's grandfather, he appears before him, very gently stops him, and he instructs him on tolerance, mercy, friendship. He actually reminds him, because Dhruva Maharaj anyway is a pure devotee. And again, those are some beautiful verses about the Supreme Lord, the bodily concept, etc. So with all that, Dhruva Maharaj calms down, stops the battle. So because of that, Kuvera, the king of the Yakshas and the treasurer of the demigods, appears before him and offers him a benediction. Now, Dhruva Maharaj could have, refused, right? That he's already seen Narayan. Why does he need Kuvera's benedictions? But Dhruva Maharaj actually asks for a benediction. And what is that? He says that, yes, that I may have unflinching faith in and in remembrance of the Supreme Personality. Okay, so that's one instance that I just came across. Another is that the gopis worship Katyayani, right? We know about that. But what do they ask for as they worship? They are asking to have Krishna as their Lord and husband. Right? So the lesson is that one can accept benediction from demigods, but only if it is favorable for advancing in Krishna consciousness. So I found that really instructive and really sweet, especially because a lot of people struggle, even once they come into Krishna consciousness, they struggle to give up worshipping gods, their past, their family traditions, whatnot. Okay, so the last two lines will go really quick. Narayana Paraloka, Narayana Paramakaha. So we already know why Narayana Paraloka. Heard of Abrahma Bhutna Loka Punaravarti Arjuna. So from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, where repeated birth and death takes place. Krishna himself says that in Bhagavatam. And a few verses, a few days ago, Radha Kunja Bihari Prabhu explained how life in the higher planets are much longer and much, much more luxurious, one more luxurious than the other. In fact, Brahma's life in Satyaloka is so many hundreds of trillions of Earth years. Yet we know that once pious credits run out, they fall back into this mythical. So the supreme planet of the Lord, Madhama, where life is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge, and from where one never comes back again. So that Swadhama or Madhama of the Lord is the only loka, only the spiritual world, the only loka that one needs to aspire for. So Narayana Paraloka. And then the last line is Narayana Paramakaha. We, again, from the Bhagavad Gita, we know that all kinds of sacrifices are performed just to satisfy Lord Narayana in order to achieve him. There's enough evidences in Bhagavad Gita 5.29. We learn that Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, that Krishna is the beneficiary of all penances. And here, Prabhupada has said that the best sacrifice recommended in this age of Kali is Sankirtan, which is the main component of the devotional service of a Narayana Para devotee, Param Vijay Sri Krishna Sankirtan. So, hence, Narayana Paramakaha. So to conclude, right at time, Brahma is establishing that Narayana is the source of all things. Krishna has said it too in Bhagavad Gita. He said, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, that he is the cause of all causes. And Prahlad Maharaj says as well, he says, Nate Vidum Swarthagatim Vishnu. So as long as we understand that the ultimate goal of life or our real interest is actually Lord Vishnu, Krishna, his abode. As long as we understand that, and with the help of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan Yagya, along with that attachment to our Amala Puran, the Bhagavatam, the essence of all the Vedas, there is definitely hope for us. That's the way I kind of take it from this, the message, the reassuring, the self-reassuring thought take. So with that, I will end today. And tomorrow, Narayana's glorifications will continue into verse 16. So that's it for today. Thank you, and sorry if I misspoke anything. You all know this verse well, so please add.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept mine. Glories to Guru.
Mataji, very wonderful talk in the morning. Very detailed. You explained, so many things. I just wanted to express my gratitude. That's all. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for being there. Okay, if there is anything else, we will end. Panchakal Chakripa Sindhu Patitanam Papan Krishna Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Jai Jai Sai Gaur Anand.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Nice class. I mean, you quoted a lot of verses where, different from the different scriptures as well as from Bhagavatam. It's about how Narayana is the supreme goal of life. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
You can end the call, Mataji. Instead of leaving, I made you as host. I think otherwise I'll claim.
Okay.
Okay, I will end it. Thank you.